Hello, everyone. It's good to be finally able to talk to you for the GDG Enugu Dev Fest. And today we are going to be talking about Riverpod, the basics, and beyond. And my name is Temi Ajiboye. I'm a senior flutter developer at Open. And you can always reach me on Twitter at Olu_Tayomi. And a little bit about myself. Um, I'm a senior Flutter developer. Also head of engineering at Dropper. And then I have 6+ years experience as a developer, and I founded Code Clan Nigeria with a community of learners where we share knowledge and across different tech stacks. So if you are interested, just search Code Clan Nigeria on Twitter and you're gonna see us. And as I mentioned, we are going to be talking about state management, and this time we are going to be using Riverpod for it. What is Riverpod? So we've had different arguments about state management in Flutter apps, but the real question is, why do you need to do state management in your Flutter apps? So it's if you have a simple app, and it's really fine when you can pass in data from the constructor. So let's give an example here. So I have the main file and I have home page. So let's say I go into home page here and I have some data, and then I have all the widgets that comes after the home page. So let's say I need the data in this home page in another page. Okay, the first thing that comes to your mind is to pass in the data through the constructor. Like this, you see the provider page, I can pass in something through the constructor here by just declaring a variable and then making it required or not. And then you pass in your data from the home page down to another page. Now, what if you have a lot of pages? Let's say inside this provider page, we have inside this provider page, we have other pages. Let's say we have a lot of other pages here that you have to go again. So let's say you go 6 levels deep and you need the data from the home here in the last page, like maybe the 6th page. So you'd have to start passing your data through the constructor of each page, and it gets messy because when you change your data here, then it changes in all those pages as well. So you have unnecessary rebuilds of the widget that you don't want, which is why there are state management paradigms, solutions that has come to say that all you need to do is to just declare a variable somewhere, and then any page that you need it, you just need to call it there, and then when it changes in that global place, it's going to change here. And basically that's what Riverpod gives you. Riverpod is a reactive caching and data binding framework. What it means is that if you give some data to Riverpod, Riverpod is going to help you cache it and then bind it with your UI. That means it's reactive. It can react based on some sort of event. It can do a two-way data binding, which means that it can react to changes from your UI and also tell your UI to react based on the change it gives to it. Okay, so what is Riverpod itself? If you look at Riverpod and you take this POD to the front, you discover that it's actually provider. And what is provider? Provider was an improvement state library state management library over inherited widgets. So like I mentioned, it makes your testing easier, and it has defined some patterns for you to do your caching and retrieving, so you don't have to do that by yourself. And then when you declare state robbery, you can always retrieve that anywhere. So how do you use Riverpod for your state management? It's simple. Just go to pod spec pub.dev and get Riverpod. And once you install it, let's see, you just go to your pubspec.yaml file and then install Flutter Riverpod. What I'm using here is 2.0.2. So for this tutorial. And then what you're going to do is to wrap the root widget with provider scope. So you go to your main file and then you wrap your main run app with provider scope. And what is provider scope? It's basically a widget that stores all the state of your provider. So what it does is that it makes your providers accessible. Now, I noticed I've been saying something called providers, and you may be confused. Riverpod uses provider to provide data. So look at provider as something that provides data for you. So Riverpod uses them, and we're going to look at all the different providers that Riverpod has that makes life easy for you. So it says here that all Flutter applications using Riverpod must contain a provider scope at the root of their widget tree. So basically, my app is the base of all your widgets, so you need to wrap it there. So anything inside here, when you call any provider inside your main my app, is going to access all the providers that you've registered. Yeah. And so that's basically what you've done here. So what are Riverpod providers? So it allows you to store states and access them later. I said so. And it also helps you to optimize performance. So you can filter widget reboots or cache expensive state computations. Also, it allows you to test your code. Yeah, you can easily override them during the test. So let's say you have a provider of shared preferences, for example, and you have been using that in your app. So when you go back to your test, you can easily override that shared preferences with a mock shared preference. So these are the types of providers. There's the provider itself and the state provider. This is becoming legacy from the new version of Riverpod. And then you have the feature provider, stream provider, state notifier provider, change notifier provider. So let's look at provider. Provider, this is your basic type of provider. And what it does is that, let's say you have some read-only value, you just create the provider, and this is how to do it. So you say final value provider, you say the type, and then you say ref, and then you tell what data you should provide. So what is this ref? Ref is basically a provider reference. It helps you to watch, read, listen, invalidate. So you can decide that I want to do ref.watch and watch this provider. Or you say read this provider, listen, and the likes. You'll see that in detail. And the resources, you can go to the Riverpod docs, and then this is my video on Riverpod. It's about 50 minutes, sorry. So you are going to learn Riverpod in 50 minutes, and it has examples and this project itself. So feel free to watch that. And that will be the end of this talk. I hope you have been able to learn one or two things in this talk. Thank you very much. And always reach out to me on Twitter and on my YouTube channel, Temi Codes. So, yeah, thank you for listening.